Hello and welcome as we continue our journey with Young in Digital. Our guest for today is Priya Dutt, Member of Parliament, Mumbai North Central, and we're going to ask her about what her vision is for Young India. Priya, thank you very much for speaking with us. So I'm going to ask you some specific questions and some general ones, but let me ask you the general one first. Who are your voters?
My constituency is extremely diverse.
Yeah.
I have the very educated elite voters, and then I have voters from the slums. And many times I have to deal with issues of the very basic sanitation and health and stuff related to the municipal level election. But I have to address those issues as well. So very diverse. So I can't really specifically say that I have only these as my voters.
Okay.
And both have a huge amount of youth in both sides. And of course, needs are different and have to address each equally.
Right. So, as we've passed through a few elections and a decade, the way youth respond and look at society has changed. I mean, digitization being one big thing, because everyone is connected, there's social media and all of that. How are you seeing their needs evolve and their aspirations change?
I have seen their aspirations change, and I think they've started, there is a lot of aspiration amongst the youth, which also I think brings about frustration and anger. Because if you don't meet up to those aspirations, it causes
Give us an
this
example
reactions.
from something that you've encountered in your constituency.
I think it could, the first thing about youngsters, 18 and above, I would say, who've just finished college, want jobs immediately, and many times the availability of jobs not many of the ones I tell you, like especially the ones I'm dealing with in the slums, who passed out, they've finished their education, many of them are graduates, they all want government jobs, and that becomes a problem. And they said, we are graduates, government jobs are secure jobs, but it's very difficult to get a government job, because there are so many people applying for it, and there is no opening and that. So,
isn't that interesting? I mean, that people in the heart of Mumbai are actually going after government jobs the way someone in maybe urban, non-urban, or semi-urban or rural India would.
Yeah. But that is they feel that it's a sense of security. Agar aapko government job mile, to nobody can throw you out.
Sure.
You're secure. Nobody. Whereas private sector jobs are something which they can lay you off, they can, tell you to leave your job. I think that's the fear.
Okay. So you're saying job security is one of the biggest concerns amongst your younger voters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are the other kind of concerns?
Like I said, if I look at even concerns of the young voters on the other side, it's very different. For them, it's of course the system. And see, they watch television more. They are on social media a lot more. So it's a lot of visuals and images they see of India with the perceptions that have changed. Looking at corruption in a way, looking at our systems not functioning. These are the things that affect the youth who are, from much elite class, from the upper middle class or the middle class, and safety of women. It's very heartening to see that a lot of young women today are much more empowered, and this I'm talking on from both sections, are being educated, are going to college, or are doing their jobs. So I think the main concerns of young women is safety.
Okay.
And that's an issue which needs to be addressed, because wherever I go, and I used to go around even in the malls and ask these young girls, because they're employed from the neighborhood or they come from various other places. And they're saying, our greatest fear is when we're going back home at night and we get off the railway station and I just feel unsafe, because I don't know what to do. And these are the, very... it's not small, but I think they're very pertinent to understand that the psyche of a young girl who's who's trying to reach or achieve her dream of being able to be financially secure and things like that, and a sense of insecurity in other ways.
Right. So you're saying job security is a key aspiration, but tied to that, particularly from the women's point of view, achieving that in the context of security for women in themselves is a critical.
Is a critical.
Right. So tell me something. You talked about the elite, right? I'm assuming you mean the western part of your
the western part of my
constituency. So how are they looking at issues when it comes to solutions? I mean, are they expecting you to provide solutions, or do they just expect you to fix the roads and the sanitation or whatever the case may be?
I think they're pretty aware today. I think youngsters are quite aware of what they want. I had one of these hangouts with it was a group of youngsters who had got together and Operation Black Dot, correct, and encouraging young voters, the first time voters, and they came up with various questions, about. We need to have more hangout places in the city. We need to, have more nightlife, and we don't want to be kind of, why can't we have more open spaces for sports? So this is the mind of an 18-year-old who's going to be the first time voter, and then we also have people, telling us that we want a roof over our heads. Why are we made to shift every time there is something happening? This is a youth from the slum. Why do they call us illegal? And don't we also vote? Don't we also have a right? So there are, questions like this come to us, and many times, it really makes me think, this is India. We cannot have half of India progressing and half of India just being in a place where nothing is happening. So these things kind of, I think I look at.
So let me ask you the counter question to that. So why is it that nothing is happening for this half?
It is happening, but see, it is a huge divide in our country, which if we have to bring
together. So
the
inequality is more stark than the fact that a certain set of the population has achieved.
Yeah, there is an inequality. When you talk about even
but there is prosperity to some extent.
There is a huge amount of prosperity, but it cannot be lopsided. If we let it go lopsided, we are going to.
But my question is, both sides have benefited. The rich have perhaps become richer. The poor have also, their conditions
they have improved a lot.
Yeah.
But there is lots to be done. India is moving in a very fast pace. Okay, these guys have to be able to kind of keep up with that pace. And when we look at that inclusive growth, that's what we talk about. When we look at, putting in more money for education and health, that's what we talk about. And we cannot ignore it. You may say, many times people say, oh, you're subsidizing this, you're subsidizing, but that is the need. And I see it in a very small way in my own constituency.
But the question that's often asked to your party is that, are you now really under the guise of inclusive growth, ignoring growth?
I don't think so. How are we ignoring growth?
Really, in your case, it might mean that I forget about the western part of the constituency for a while and only focus on the eastern side.
I never do that. You have to strike a balance. I cannot afford to do that. I have to strike a balance. I know, and I have to understand what they need. I also live in the western side.
Sure.
I know what issues each and every person living here goes through. It could be the roads, it could be the garbage. But what we have really successfully done is involve thinking citizens to be part of governance. And we as administrators become facilitators for that vision. I have and that includes the ALMs, the societies who are proactive, who come up with ideas for their localities.
Right. So give us an idea which you think is worth sharing and maybe emulating at the more national level, which you think has sprung from in and around your constituency.
I feel involvement of civil society in governance we've got, I think, the best minds in the world, and you see a brain drain actually, and you see the Indians going all over the world and achieving, and we have that in our country. I think we have to take advantage of it, and that's the reason where we must involve civil society. Now, a place like Mumbai, we have people who have come up who are urban planners, who have given suggestions in urban planning, in how to maintain open spaces, create open spaces. I think we must involve civil society in governance.
Right. So let me come back to the first question that I asked you, and I asked you about your vision for young India, and I also asked you about who your voters are. So you said that there were two types of young voters. One was obviously came from more affluent backgrounds, other from not so affluent backgrounds. The not so affluent were looking for jobs with security. The more affluent were looking for spaces, sports, and so on and so forth. What are the common threads now between these two sets of youth that you've been interacting with, and what's your vision for them as someone who's standing for elections?
I think you look at different age groups here. When you look at an 18-year-old who's going to be a first-time voter, for him it's more about education. What is available for me here. I want to learn more. I want to explore more. I want more facilities. It could be for sports. It could be for learning. When you look at an 18-year-old who is just passed out 12th or is in the first year college from the other side, he's looking for a job. Because for him, he doesn't mind studying further, but he needs a job. So these are the two very stark things. And when we look at, I truly feel that I think, especially for first-time voters at 18-year-olds, that we must look at education. And we have to, get, when you see the new generation evolving, we have to have a productive generation evolving if you need that generation to contribute positively to the growth of this country. And I believe that for both, higher education is a very important factor, and quality of education is very important.
Okay, so let me take you back. I mean, when you were younger and entered politics, I'm sure you had some dreams, a vision, an aspiration. To what extent do those hold today? This is not to put the question to you today as someone who's standing for elections, but like I said, what was then, and how much do you think you've seen happen, achieved, not just yourself, but as a country, and what remains to be done, more important?
When I first became a member of Parliament, I think I had this very utopian view that once I, become a politician, I'll change the world. And it didn't really happen. And I really got hit on the head really hard when, I saw what I was working with and how things worked and how you had to you had your own limitations. You may have had the most brilliant vision, the most brilliant idea, but achieving that was a huge process in itself. But having said that, I would say that I learned and understood the system and tried my best to work with the system and achieve whatever goals I had. And I was very successful in creating a kind of, number one, that bridge between your representative and the people. I found that was lacking tremendously when I just came into politics, where people had to come and wait for hours in your office. The accessibility, which was, people could come into your office and speak to you, pick up the phone and speak to you, that access. Whereas, you feel, oh my God, wo to bahut bade politicians, you can't even approach them. We had to break that. It is only when you break that do you start understanding the issues which you are dealing with, and then address those issues, with that. And we did that. We did that even with the ALMs, with the very intellectual, very learned people who would actually be cut off from politics completely. Tried to bring them in, as I said, it inclusive and contributing to governance. And I think the biggest achievement for me was to be able to do the littlest things for a large amount of people. And those little things could mean, building a toilet where they didn't know it existed. And, this again is BMC issues, but these are the most important things that matter to your everyday life. And as a member of Parliament, I did do a lot of that, because those were the issues that were coming to me every single day. It was not about policy making here in my constituency. It was not about what I'm going to do in Delhi for them, but it was, what are you going to do for me here? And I had to address those issues. And it's, you know, in both sides. You know, it could be a footpath that was non-existent and we made a footpath, or it could be a, you know, so I think to be able to achieve that slowly but steadily and make a difference in people's lives was something which kind
so
of
what's
really...
the unfinished?
Lots is unfinished. Lots is unfinished.
The key, one or two ones which you feel... Again, I'm taking you back to the point you started out.
Right. I think most importantly is, you know, for me, I've always... Mumbai for me is my home. And we've seen it grow and explode nearly. But for me, a vision for Mumbai is to have a slum-free Mumbai, to have more open spaces in Mumbai. And we've been working on that. And really, I think a dream which I would have, because my constituency has huge number of slums. I would want rehabilitation for those people. I would want a better life for those people. We've been able to achieve it for many, but there is a huge amount left. And I think that is something which is unfinished for me.
Okay, you've got your work cut out. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.